Hello and welcome to another edition of MicDrops. I'm your host, Richie Averill, and I'm joined today with lender extraordinaire Tim Lacyk. Tim, thanks so much for joining us.
Thanks, Richie. Appreciate being here.
And so today I asked Tim to join us because there's a huge partnership when it comes to lenders and realtors to be able to get a buyer into their home, get to the closing, have a smooth process. So I want to have you come in and kind of talk about that relationship when working with real estate agents. So my first question is kind of what are some areas of improvement? So we want it to always be, sunshine and rainbows, but it's not always. What are some areas of improvement that you see when working with a realtor?
In a utopian society, it's already perfect, right? But that's not the case. The first thing that comes out of mind is communication. I think, while we do our best to communicate as effectively as possible, we all get busy, get buried, and I think, that's something that should never falter. On the lender side, the communication is imperative to keep the realtor informed throughout the process. It should be, you already have your answers, your questions answered before they become questions. Right. And there's certain milestones in the loan process that a lender should be reaching out. And if you're not getting those updates and that communication, that's a red flag.
Right. So communication's key.
Yeah.
It's big time. Communication with client, communication with the lender. What are some common mistakes that we agents make when working with the lender?
None.
Good answer.
Actually, there's a couple of things that do come to mind. One of the things is when writing a contract, it's helpful to ask the lender exactly what their timeline is for getting the appraisal done, to getting the clear to close, so that loan condition, or it's now updated to a different term, the loan deadline.
Right.
Those things, if you have that active conversation, which assumably all realtors are already doing during the negotiation and contract process, it's helpful to just get that kind of in, because nobody likes to change dates on the contract. Right. It's just like mud on your face kind of thing.
So going back to communication. So if the agent writes an offer with, let's say, an appraisal deadline in a week, mm-hmm. that might not work for the lender. A lender might not be able to get that appraisal done in that amount of time.
Correct, and that's, working on historical information, yes, last transaction you maybe got that lender was able to get the appraisal done in a week, but with the industry there's ebb and flow. There's high volume and low volume times, so at the one point a lender might be able to do it in a week, and then 2 weeks later that same lender might need 2 weeks to do it. And because no lender has control over the appraisal process, we're at the mercy of that. And so just kind of working that in the negotiation. One of the things that is advantageous now is there is technology out there, there's information that lenders have access to that can actually find out if you can get an appraisal waiver. And if you have the knowledge of an appraisal waiver going into the negotiation process, that's leverage that you can use maybe with that deadline. So, there's some things to discuss with that, because a lender can look up that information and verify it.
Nice. So once again, going back to communication.
Yes.
All right. Tim, let's flip the script a little bit.
Okay.
And I know that you don't make mistakes.
Never.
Right?
Yes.
What are some common mistakes that lenders make when working with an agent?
I think one of the biggest things that lenders tend to falter is they want the realtor to be able to show homes that a client really is passionate about getting, right, but cannot actually qualify for. And so having a strong conversation that this is truly their maximum approvability, meaning if you're looking at a home at $300,000, that is their absolute max. It can't be that go ahead and show them a $350,000 and there's some wiggle room. So always have it's imperative for a lender to actually call and discuss the approval with a realtor, right, to discuss the terms. There could be, if it's a conventional or an FHA loan, there's things that come to effect with that. The other thing that lenders, I've noticed, falter on is not running what's called automated underwriting findings. That's just should be out of the gate when you're approving somebody. Run that to get an approve eligible or an approve accept, so that you know that the information's confirmed, and it can also help with the negotiation process.
And Tim, there might be some newer agents out there that may not understand what automated underwriting, they may never have heard that. So why is that important, and how do they know that it could be done?
So it's always asking, so that communication piece. So if it's not a lender partner that you consistently work with, it's maybe a buyer's using a bank that they use from a town that they grew up in. Ask, have you run automated underwriting findings? What that is it's submission of the borrower's data, literally all of their details, their credit, their income, their assets. All that information is then submitted into the system, and it's run through an algorithm, which an underwriter then approves the documents on. So going back to a conversation that we had earlier, the underwriter is the end-all be-all that clears the file to close. So why not have the data and information that confirms that right out of the gate? And a lot of lenders just assume that it's going to be okay, and it's the equivalent of throwing something against the wall and hoping it sticks,
Right.
which is not the way to do it.
So it's just one additional way to get that buyer in a better circumstance so that they can actually purchase that home.
Exactly.
Perfect.
Yep.
So we talked about the communication needs necessary between the client, between the lender, between the realtor. What are some other things that you would hope that realtors will keep in mind or be mindful of when they're working with the lender?
That not all lenders are created equal. A lot of lenders talk a big walk and walk a big game, but at the end of the day, can they actually stand up and do what they talk about? Which is why I always think it's an imperative thing that realtors do is be the consumer. Have your lender literally walk you through their consumer process. You should know beginning to end what it's like. If you don't like it, then there's a problem, but you should always know what the consumer experience is as a realtor for your lender partners. I think that's kind of one of the other things that is, just generally good to know. The other thing too is, we, as much as we'd like to control everything in the process, there's a lot of moving wheels, as you all know, with the real estate game. And, when it comes to appraisals or different facets that come within the actual process, we do our best to maintain the ship in the right direction, but just know sometimes things are out of our control. And what makes a good lender, what makes a lender just a lender is saying, oh, this happened, sorry. What makes a great lender is somebody that says, here's a solution to the problem that has come forward.
Yeah, you took the words right out of my mouth, because that's, as you were talking, that's what I was thinking about is, when I'm looking for a great lender partner, it's, are you providing solutions or are we coming up with more and more problems? And
Exactly.
So you took the words right out of my mouth. So Tim, we've talked about communication being important. We talked about the mistakes that lenders make. We talked about the mistakes that agents make, and things for agents to keep in mind. What else? Any lasting wisdom that you'd like to share with all of our realtors that are watching, that you'd like for them to know?
As with real estate, the lending industry is changing daily, minute by minute. And the best thing that you can do is really, truly, instead of telling your clients, these are the loan programs, these are the rates of today, really empower the team that you've established and invite your lender in on that early on conversation, because it just makes you look amazing when you come in and say, you know what, when we have our first sit down, I'm gonna have my preferred lender with you, and we can talk about rates and loan programs at that moment. And so it just charges you to really have that bold presence that then you lock in that client.
Nice.
Yeah.
So for all you watching, communication is the takeaway of the day.
See?
Tim, thank you so much for all the great information. We're definitely more informed now than we were when we started.
Great.
So we appreciate it. And thank you so much for watching today, and we'll see you next time on MicDrops.
Thank you.